Hi, I'm Tom Giannotti. I'm an attorney with the Butler law firm. I want to talk about insurance and specifically insurance limits. If you or maybe somebody you know has had the misfortune of being involved in a car accident, you may have heard a lot about what the insurance limits are, whether that be the at-fault driver's insurance, what they call liability insurance, or your own insurance, which is called UM, or for underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage, for a situation where the person that hit you either didn't have insurance or didn't have enough insurance to cover the damages. And so in both instances, there are limits. So when you buy your insurance, as you probably know, there's options that you can purchase varying levels. Georgia requires a minimum of $25,000 of liability coverage. It's always a good idea to purchase UM insurance, but it's not required. We have seen a lot of folks who come to us who are seriously injured and have medical bills that far, far exceed what the insurance limits are. They, for example, were hit by somebody who only had the minimum of $25,000, and they may even have some UM insurance, but it's still not enough. And their medical bills alone will exceed that, or at least come close to it, and that doesn't leave much of anything to compensate them for pain and suffering or lost wages, and that's a problem. So what do we do about that problem? And why do we care about insurance limits? Well, I will say it's not a perfect system, but it's the system that we have, and the unfortunate reality many times, not always, but many times, is that the person that hit you, the at-fault driver, may not have individually many assets. They may or may not own property, and even if they do, it's a very difficult thing to pursue somebody individually and go after somebody's individual assets. They can oftentimes declare bankruptcy and defeat any collection efforts. And sometimes people aren't really interested in going after somebody individually for an accident, and would prefer to go through insurance. But also many times, they're left with no other option because they're stuck with tens of thousands, if not more, in medical bills, or in the case of a permanent catastrophic injury, somebody could be permanently disabled for life and have millions of dollars worth of treatment that they have no idea how they're going to pay for. It can literally bankrupt somebody. So in terms of who should pay for that, well, the party who was responsible for causing it should pay for it. And we would hope that that person had good enough insurance to cover it. But when they don't, that can be a real problem. And sometimes there is no easy solution. Sometimes that is all that you're stuck with because the person, the individual responsible, didn't have much of anything, and wouldn't be able to pay a judgment. So for those and other reasons, you hear lawyers talk about insurance limits a lot, and what it was, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000, 300,000, etc. And most of the time, that's where your recovery is going to come from. But there are some rare situations in which an insurance company will negligently fail to accept a settlement offer that they should have accepted. And in those situations, the insurance company is essentially putting their insureds, their customers' personal assets at risk by failing to accept that offer when they should have. So in those situations, the insured, who is usually the at-fault driver in the initial accident, can actually end up going and suing their own insurance company for ending up putting their assets at risk, and eventually, causing them to have a judgment in excess of what the limits are. Those are rather uncommon, but another situation that people may not know about is, let's say if you're a pedestrian, for example, right? Or if you're on a bicycle. You may get hit by a car and turn to that person's car insurance, and they may also have only $25,000, or maybe even didn't have insurance, and it's maybe not intuitive, but if you have that underinsured motorist coverage through your own insurance company, that can actually come into play. The coverage afforded by that is actually much broader than what people may think. So it may not be somebody's first thought to pursue a claim through their own car insurance when they weren't even in a car, but it can actually provide coverage in those situations. And so a lawyer can help you navigate that process and make sure all the available insurance is discovered. Lawyers can also look at insurance policies to see if there's a resident relative that reside with the named insured that may have a policy of their own, that if they reside with the defendant and then they had their own insurance policy and they're related, then that can also provide coverage that maybe one was aware of. And the last thing is another reason why it's so important to involve a lawyer in these situations is insurance companies are not always honest. Believe that or not, we've seen all kinds of things where the insurance companies will trick people into trying to accept an offer that not only, I'm not talking about doesn't compensate them fully or that wasn't a good enough offer. That's not, I'm talking about, here, sign this, this will cover your medical bills, and then you can go get your treatment and that will allow you to pay your medical bills because you have to have surgery and you don't know how to pay for it. Well, we'll just sign this. Well, what am I signing? Oh, well, it's actually a release giving up all your claims, not only against that insurance company, not just for your medical bills, but everything, pain and suffering, your uninsured, everything. And unfortunately, we've seen that happen. And if thankfully, in the situation I'm talking about, or the client had the wherewithal to contact a lawyer and say, no, you should not sign that. Another quick example is just, we've also seen insurance companies fail to disclose all the policies, where you send the required letter to the insurance company and they say, we have a $300,000 policy. Goodbye. And come to find out only after filing a lawsuit that there was actually an additional $1 million in addition to that $300,000 that they never told about. So if the client had not involved our law firm, that never would have been, that may not have ever been found out. I would hope that the insurance company at some point would have realized that, hey, there's all these medical bills and we also have this policy that, but I like to give the benefit of the doubt and believe that folks have good intentions, but unfortunately our dealings with insurance companies over the years have caused us to be very skeptical and very careful in dealing with them. So when you involve a lawyer in your case, you can make sure you find out all of the available insurance and maximize all of your avenues for recovery when you've been hurt.